The show is simulcast audio and video on the website indieradio.org, which allows listeners all over the world to gather together to tackle challenging relationship issues. And now, here are your hosts of the Mars Venus Show, Rashim and Kinte.
Hello, and welcome to an all-new episode of Men and Women Talk, the Mars Venus Show. I am one of your hosts, Kinte, all the way live from Los Angeles, California, and I am so happy to be with you on this hot as hell Monday night. I live in Los Angeles, California, and we're in the middle of a heat wave. And I don't even ask me what temperature is, it's just hot. No chocolate melts, and I'm sitting here melting. But you know what? I am here for you all. So I got to first introduce my lovely, wonderful, beautiful, and talented co-host, the woman who has the best life ever, the one and only.
I'm glad you think so. Hello, representing from Baltimore. Side. So you all the way on the west side. I'm representing the east side.
So now I know you know, the jet setter, the world traveler, just everybody wants to have your life. How was your weekend?
Yeah, my weekend had all types of topsy-turvies. I was in Florida, so it was hella hot. And humid because it kept raining and then it was hot. You know, that moisture adds a whole different dynamic to the heat. My skin was way oilier than it normally is. I visited my mom who successfully underwent a double mastectomy.
Oh, wow.
And me and my siblings were there for her, and she's on her way to a full recovery. And I also got to go see All Eyes on Me this weekend.
Oh, okay. What'd you think about it?
Gosh, that's a whole show in itself. But I'll say that I felt all of the emotions. Mm-hmm. I felt anger. I felt proud. I felt hopeful. I felt fear. I felt all of that in that one thing. And it reminded me of how, what it means to love Black people in their beauty and in their ugliness.
Mm. But he went to high school in Baltimore.
I went to Baltimore School of the Arts, right up the street, him and Jada.
Right. So a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people thought he was just, another rapper trying to act, but they don't realize he was trained for it. He was that's why besides having talent, he was actually a trained actor. So, he, definitely a wonderful talent. And at some point I'm gonna get around and watch the film and see. I'm not gonna just
check it out. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I might even.
Because you're a thespian, right? I said check it out and let me know what you think because you're a thespian, right?
No, I'm not an actor. No, I'm a terrible actor. I'm a bad actor.
Oh, so you just produce films?
Right. Nobody wants to see me in no movie.
Okay.
Actually, it's funny. I know a lot of independent filmmakers, and they're always like, "Hey, you should try." I'm like, "No." I stop them before they even get into it. I'm like, "No, I don't want to. I'm good. This one guy wanted me to play a goon that gets beat up. I'm like, "No."
Lord.
I'm not getting my butt.
And the only reason why I would push back on that for you specifically is because I feel like that would just trope you. Like they needed the big Black guy to be a goon type of thing. I wouldn't mind that role for you if I saw you play other roles first, but them first few roles seem to define people.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to act, so so I ain't playing no goon, no coon, none of that. I'm good.
Oh.
Right, I'm good. But anyway, so all right, so let's introduce our wonderful panel, and I'm gonna start off with this young lady. I'm such a big fan of hers. She is my social media guru, and at some point she's going to be my dance teacher. You got to speak it into existence. It's the one and only Tachi. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, I kind of told a little bit about yourself, but give a little more background into who you are.
So, in addition to being your fictional dance teacher, I I am a professor, a media professor, a filmmaker, a media content producer, and also a journalist. And I do also happen to be a dancer choreographer. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow.
Don't
And
y'all love how Tachi is just like exuberating, like goddess?
mhm.
Oh,
She has this look about her today where her feet are planted firmly in the ground, but like her head looks like it's up in the heavens somewhere. Like she has that great combination of heaven and earth right there.
oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Compliment. Amazing.
Gorgeous.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I like that. Yes. All right. So, and also too, you have a couple of shows as well. Tell everybody about the shows.
That I do. So I am the host of Mediascope, which is a weekly show I do every Wednesday at 5 p.m. on Busker, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Periscope and Facebook Live simultaneously. And I talk all about media, tech, and pop culture. Fridays, I do the social media scene with my friend and soror, Alice Fuller. And we talk all about the week in social media. Sundays, I do the classic movie salon with three other wonderful individuals in London, LA, and in New York, and we talk about classic film. And then the last thing I do is I have a podcast called TV Channeling with my good friend Kevin Williams, who lives in LA, and we talk all about TV, film, and entertainment, and we also do reviews of shows, and it's a blast. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I love it. You know me. I try to get in as much good programming as possible.
Yeah.
This lady right here will keep you abreast of what's good and what's not. So thank you so much for being here. Right. So this next young lady, I had the pleasure of meeting, as well as everybody on the panel, through this website that is now no more, called Blab. It's one and only Nicole. How you doing, Nicole? Or Nikki, as we called you back in the day.
Nikki's fine. I love that's my nickname. Everybody calls me Nikki, but yeah, what's up?
I'm so glad that you were here. And I think this is the first show that we ever done together, like an official thing. So I'm glad.
Yeah, 100%.
So give us a little background on yourself.
Well, I'm a graphic and web designer mainly, but I also do social media managing and marketing and stuff like that. So I'm in the same realm. I write. I used to be a entertainment blogger, but I quit some time ago because it got a little negative, you know. But I am writing more about lifestyle these days. So I'm in the process of revamping my website now, so I can start writing again.
Oh, nice. And once again, I'm so happy that you're here, and you're gonna chop it up with us.
Yes, I'm gonna hop on cam in a second.
Okay, so we get to all see your lovely face.
It's been a long time since I got on camera.
I know, yeah. So I'm very, first of all, I have to say I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by such beautiful and talented ladies, and I'm looking forward to really getting deep into some conversation tonight. So, as some may know, that last week we had an all-male panel, and we talked about a lot of different topics, and I thought it was a good discussion. And I think that, this week we want to kind of have the ladies' side of it. And there was a lot of things that we talked about. We talked a lot about, our relationship with you, women. And so this one, I want to kind of do it in reverse and talk about, the way that you guys see us. And I think a good place to start off with, and I'm going to actually start off with Rasheem with this one, is a young lady actually, before the show started, she was writing me, and she told me not to say her name, so I will not do that. And she was saying that she's an intelligent woman. She an attractive woman as well. She's in her mid-40s, and she's having a very hard time as far as getting a guy to go from the you know, I want to be friends with benefits, or I just want to, you know, kind of just hook up, or just, you know, maybe go out here and there. But she said she can't never get a guy to get past that point to actually getting into a real relationship with. And she feels like maybe it's because she's too passive, or she doesn't know what's going on. And I just kind of wanted to I'm gonna start off with you, Rasheem. Do you have any advice for, this is one of our listeners, you know, is there anything that maybe you could say to her? Because she's very, I mean, this is something that, you know, she talks about a lot.
Well, I mean, I think that that's a no silver bullet thing. You know what I mean? Not really knowing her personally. There could be a number of things, but I don't know that I would say or reason or come to the conclusion that it's an issue with her. Like I don't know if I would say this is what you need to do. You know what I mean? Also, even if there were a thing, let's say, that I would do, I don't know the thing that I would do would naturally work for whoever. I think it's just a matter of working within their personality. One thing that I would be curious to know is how clear is she in what it is that she wants, and how clearly is that articulated in her communication when she's dating.
Now, see, here's my thing, and I want to open this to the panel. I feel like when someone tells you absolutely the truth about their intentions, I don't feel like you can get mad at that. When someone tells you, like, hey, that's all I want is this, it may be disappointing because that's not what you want, but at least they're cluing you in on what they're thinking. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, yeah, I think that I think sometimes one of the things that I know friends of mine have done is they haven't necessarily been very clear about articulating exactly what they want because they don't want to scare the guy away. Like, so they don't want to say, I'm interested in a monogamous relationship, or I'm interested in getting married at some point, or I'm interested in, because they feel like the guy might just kind of like run for the hills. So they do things in terms of like just make themselves very available. They position themselves a lot of times in a way like I want him to see me as fun, and I want him to see me as carefree and exciting. And so, you know, that's kind of I believe what they pick up on. Like, oh, every time I call her, she's there. Every time I need her to come to my house, she'll do it. She'll cook. And see, sometimes I've had friends that will say, you know, I've been doing everything. I have been cooking for him. I've been showing him that I'm, you know, cleaning. I've been watching his kids and all of this. To me, all you're really showing him is like, you know, you're somebody who will serve me in a particular way. Like, and I've asked, like, how clear are you first with yourself about like what it is you actually want? Like, get some clarity with yourself. And then how clear are you in your communications? I think sometimes in dating, we feel like we have to just make ourselves, in order to make ourselves desirable, just be like, I want to do everything. I want to be perfect. I want him to always see me flawless. And I think that we don't ask any tough questions that we think might scare a guy away.
Well, one thing
in general, that's what I'm.
One thing that this lady says is that she doesn't, because I said, well, did you ever think about maybe the crop of guys that you're going after? You know, maybe you're just going after guys that are not for you. Obviously, they're not trying to be with you. But maybe, you know, because the common denominator is her, right? So you can say that maybe that you are choosing terribly. But then she was saying something about this idea about not settling. I want to ask the ladies on the panel about that notion of not settling for somebody. What does that mean to you? And what is a fair way to put it about this idea of not settling for somebody? You want to start off, Tachi?
I'm so glad you brought this up because I just honestly had this conversation yesterday about not settling. So to answer first of what that means is to be with the person that you are equally yoked with. I mean, it sounds cliche, but you need to be of equal footing at the very least because that can cause problems. And this is in my opinion, if you are not equally yoked. I was just talking about yesterday how Black women, we have been socialized to accept whoever comes across our path, and it's not the same conversations that you hear with other women, whether it's other women of color or white women. So, for example, if we have standards about the type of person we want, say you don't want to date somebody who is a sanitation worker. And then we're told, well, that sanitation worker could be the best thing ever, they're the best person ever, but you never hear that same conversation when it's directed towards white women or maybe other women of color. Now, that's not saying that there's anything wrong with dating a sanitation worker, but if that's not who you feel you're going to mesh with, if that's not who you feel, particularly if you're a Black woman that has a lot of education and the other person does not necessarily, it doesn't always have to be a problem, but it can often be a problem because in our society, Black men tend to feel emasculated in certain ways. And so that's just one more piece of it for them. So you have to be where you're equally yoked. And I'm tired of us being taught to settle. It's not always that we're just settling. I think this is the discourse that surrounds us. And again, not in all cases, but just in some cases, I've noticed this.
It's very interesting. The person I'm talking about, who's writing me right now, is a Caucasian woman, and she says that this guy is. Well, I'm sorry. She's talking about: are you a professor? You want someone educated. If you're a nice looking, you want someone similar. Equal footing. This guy is on equal footing educationally, and is actually more attractive than she is what she's saying, which is pretty interesting way to put it. But I don't know, like when you say not settling, like the sanitation worker, is it just for you financially? Is it more than that? Like if you're a professor, you want to be someone in that kind of range, or is there other things that you'd be settling if he's too short or if he's whatever?
Yeah, you know what? Are you talking about personally?
Mm-hmm.
For me?
Yeah.
So personally, it's not necessarily about, okay, the other person has to be a professor too, or the same type of thing. But I do know that first of all, there's another piece to this as well, culturally, because I'm also Nigerian, and Nigerians' parents don't play certain things, so that becomes ingrained in you, eventually about the type. Because again, remember, that's a culture where many Nigerian cultures where they're grooming their children for selection of mates. So that kind of thing gets ingrained in you. Even though I don't necessarily subscribe to that or ascribe to that, it's still ingrained in me because that's how I grew up. So it's not necessarily the thing about being, oh, you're this or you're that, or this is the profession that you do. But number one, culturally, that's something that I've grown up around. And so it does have an effect on me and the way that I choose a person that I date. And then number two, I have to see the same level of conversation, the same types of interests, which they may not have. And that has nothing necessarily to do with profession all the time. There are people that are not college educated that have such a great level of conversation that enjoy some of the same types of things that I would. But at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. And I'm just talking from personal experience. When it comes down to the kind of getting serious part of it, when they're not at equal footing with me, that's when with Black men, I'll say with Black men, that's when I started to notice the issue where there was this feeling of emasculation or whatever without me even saying anything. So that's how I knew there was something to that. For some couples, it may work, But for me, I saw, having tried, that it was not going to, and so that I had to have somebody that was like college educated, somebody that was probably a working professional, and then aside from all of that, somebody who enjoyed quirky, weird, nerdy things as well, that type of thing. So.
Okay. Now I'm going to go to you, Nicole. What should, when we talk about not settling, what does that mean to you? And what is something that you wouldn't settle for?
Okay.
That line.
I think that to say I'm not going to settle, it really depends on the perception of what's that. Like for me, how I view myself, to say like, let's say like, just say what this person said, like he's more attractive than I am, says more about what you think of yourself than what you think of them. You know what I'm saying? You have to be grounded and understand who you are and love yourself and respect yourself. And then once you can see you for you and love you as you, then you can start to say, well, is this person someone that I can match up with? Because if I'm still trying to find my way to say I look beautiful today, how can I really go in and say like, oh, this person would respect my, like how I feel about wearing my hair this way, or the way I like to dress, or, you know what I'm saying? It has to be a self-confidence. You have to understand who you are in every way before you can go out and I guess in a way compare yourself to someone else. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just how I view it.
Another thing too you often hear about, and I'm pretty sure you guys heard it. I don't know if you guys maybe said it, is this idea of someone that having baggage, or I no one has no baggage, I don't think, but I guess I guess you can have too much baggage. And I'm gonna go back to you, Rasheem. When someone says that they want someone who doesn't have baggage or very little baggage, what does that mean to you? And what realistically is too much baggage? I mean, I don't know, from your perspective.
I think baggage means that they don't want excess. They might want the person, but don't want, other things that come along with them, whether that is baby daddies, baby mamas, children, crazy stalker ex-girlfriends, crazy stalker ex-boyfriends. People don't want the excess. They just want the relationship. I think that's what, that's my understanding of like what that means. And I feel like people get to say that. I feel like people get to come into relationships and say what they do and don't want. And I don't necessarily think that there's a thing wrong with that. It's so long as they're like clear about that up front. I don't think it makes a man any less a man if he says, you're a lovely person, but 10 children is a little bit too much for me to handle. Because I think he's being realistic about what he can handle and what he wants. And I would prefer that than a person going into a relationship just using the woman, knowing she has 10 children and not trying to, you know what I mean? Because there's certain expectations of like what you can and can't deal with. And I think coming into a relationship saying what you can and can't or will or won't deal with, like there are certain things that I don't necessarily want in a relationship. Like, let's say if a guy was, I don't know, like addicted to heroin. I can say, I feel like I have a right to say, I don't want to be with anybody who's addicted to heroin. Like that's extra baggage for me. That's extra. I don't want that. So I think that's what baggage is. And I think that saying, people being upfront about what they do and do not want in relationships is healthy and fine and should be welcomed.
You know what I love is how you were very specific. You said heroin. So like crack is like okay and cocaine. Yeah.
Now, do I need to list every drug, Kente?
You said heroin. You didn't say drug. She didn't say drug addiction. She said heroin. Like so when you see
I also said 10 children. Do I need to say 7, 20?
So enough, he's like, hey, it's not heroin, baby. It's cocaine.
Oh,
I think sometimes, physical baggage, like, having a lot of children and, all that crazy stalker stuff is valid. But there's also then the emotional baggage too. Like, are you even emotionally ready for the relationship you say that you want? I recently, like the beginning of this year, got into a relationship, and all of the things that we talked about just now happened. I was so scared. I had been single for 2 years by choice. I decided I needed a break. I was a serial dater before. I had been engaged, broken, and then once that happened, I was like, I need a break. So I didn't date anybody really for 2 years. And then this person came along. They had been trying to get in touch with me for a year. And I was so like, once I met them, I was surprised. I was like, oh, because I didn't go into it thinking like, I'm going to go be with this man. And then I was like, oh, okay. But then I didn't know what to do because I was like afraid of it. I was like, is this real? Is this a thing? Is this for me? Like, is this okay? Should I let go? Should I open up? And I was afraid to like just even accept that it was for me or like that it was real because I was so afraid. And I had a little bit of emotional baggage, but not enough to push him away, apparently. And I just was open with him. Like when you mentioned earlier that we get afraid to say to a man what we want, like I want to get married, I want to have kids. That is so true. And I talk about that with my friends all the time, but I'm also, it happens with me because it's scary because, you know, you don't want to scare for God because the moment a guy hits marriage, you think automatically he's going to be like, whoa, calm down, we just met. And it's like, I'm not saying I want to marry you. I'm just saying that I am someone who wants to be married. And I'm trying to find out if you also want that so that we don't waste each other's time. Because I don't want to be with you for 6 months or a year. And then we start saying like, oh, you know, what do you want to get married? And he's like, no, never. And you're like, oh my God, I just wasted this whole year. I thought I loved this man. And I don't want to go through that. And so you have to find the confidence to say like, what you want. And if you can't say what you want to him because you're afraid you're going to lose him, then you lose him. Like it's fine to lose him. He's fine to get lost because he's not for you. If he can't be open and have a conversation with you, then you don't need to be involved in that. You need to find someone who you can communicate. And he was very open with me and it made me feel so comfortable. And it's like, that's what you need. You need to just do it. And I was the girl. I'm the chill girl who everybody likes and I'm cool with everybody and they get used to that and they don't want to move forward and grow in a relationship. You just become the cool girl that like, you know, I can always call her, she'll always be there and like, you got to be a little more forward than you think you have to be because I'm submissive in my relationships, but you have to be a little bit more forward than you may be comfortable with if you want to get the things that you want to get. You have to be honest.
You know, it's funny I mean, you can say this about everybody, but especially guys. When we get in a place where we're comfortable, where we're at, we tend to just stay there. So if we're in a relationship where we're not, you know, commitment is not really on the table or is not being put on the table, and, you know, it's pretty cool, you know, we're having sex, you know, we go out every once in a while, she's pretty cool. You know, we get to a point where we're like, you know what? I can do this forever. You know.
And, you know what's interesting? One of the things that's interesting about that is like, with me and my husband, he said, and I still debate him to no end with this, but he says that when we were dating, he felt like he had to marry me, like he felt pressure to. Even though I never necessarily said, like, you have to marry me. But there were certain things that he wanted out of the relationship. For one, he wanted us to live together. And I said, I'm not moving in with somebody that I'm not married to. So in order for him to kind of get some of the things that he wanted out of a relationship, he had to give me what I wanted out of a relationship. And so just by being clear about what I wanted, that in and of itself kind of like put pressure on him. But I always debate him when he says that, like, I didn't pressure you. But he's like, yeah, but I knew you wasn't gonna, you know. It's kind of like setting, when people say before, don't settle, you set your own boundaries, you set your own non-negotiables up, right? So I think sometimes that in and of itself could also let people kind of know where you're at. Like he knew if he wanted to be with me in a certain way, and at this thing, you're gonna have to put some skin in the game.
Yeah, I think that's good. Like it sounds bad when you hear a guy say like, I felt pressured, but I think maybe he just wording it using a word. I'm sure there's a better word for it. He was very aware that you had a certain type of need, and he knew that if he wanted you in the long run, he would have to fulfill that need. That's how those words, because pressure does sound more like, well, ultimately, like, if you don't marry me, bye. Like, you didn't give that. It's just, he just had that sense that you were a certain type of woman, that you needed your respect and you wanted to be respected in this way. And he knew that if he wanted you, he had to respect you in that way. And I think that's great. That's something that I was afraid to do. That's scary, though. So I can understand anyone who's like, oh, man, I'm going out with this guy and I want to be honest, but I don't want to scare him off. It's like, well, if he's scared of that, then you don't need him anyway. Because what you going to do? Be with him for 2 years and then what? He going to be like, no, thank you?
And I think another aspect of it is, like, I was fine. Like, we could have dated longer. And I would have been fine with us dating a little bit longer. But I wasn't moving in.
and that's ultimately what he wanted, right? For you guys to live together. And he knew that was the deal breaker. But I could tell you were like, look, no. And so he knew he wanted you that much. And he wanted you enough to say that whatever his fears were about moving forward in that way were secondary to him being with you.
100%.
And also too, you know that the time the clock starts ticking, because there's the sharks will be in the water when they smell blood in the water. So he knew that he had to go ahead and lock it down. So
he was a good woman. Exactly.
Props to brother man. So
the thing, the conversation about the young lady with the moving on from the friends with benefits situation, I spent 2 years in a relationship with someone like that, and he fell in love with me, and it played a big part in me taking a break, because he fell in love, I fell in love, but he still wanted to mess with other women. Like, even for him, even being in love with me was not enough. And I had known this man for 8 years. We were friends way before I knew him. So I knew how he was with women, and when we got involved in that way, it was just like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to move on, no big deal. But then it evolved. Like, you can't really stop that. It evolved into something else, and it just made me kind of lose a little bit of hope. Like, oh, if I can get him to see me a certain way, then he'll settle down. But even with him being extra and doing all these things that he doesn't usually do for women, he did for me, still it wasn't enough for him to just stop and say, like, I only want you. And that broke me for a while, because I was like, well, if he could be in love with me and still that's not enough, what the heck am I even looking for at this point? Like, I don't even know. So I had to stop. And maybe you need a break and just need to just, like, be with you by yourself. Like, just be with you and enjoy your friends and your family. And you can go out on some fun days, but not try to go into everything looking for some kind of relationship. Just see what you like and then laugh with your girlfriends. Like, oh, I went out with this guy, girl, and he was this, that. And you can just date for sport and get used to that, and get used to talking to men in a specific way. And then when you're ready to really go there and you feel confident enough to go there with anyone you talk to, as far as a man is concerned, in that direction, then you can start dating, because that's what I did.
It's interesting.
And I also,
I'm
sorry, Kente.
No, go ahead.
I also think it's a thing of not trying so hard. I think sometimes we just try so hard and we calculate everything, and we turn it into this sport for some reason. And I think that things happen when they're supposed to happen. That doesn't mean do nothing, but I also think it doesn't mean, it means don't try so hard. Because my thing has always been that things happen, whether it's relationships or whatever, they happen when they're supposed to happen, and they unfold. And you don't have to put so much effort into it to the point of being tired and turning it into a full-time job for it to manifest. So that's just kind of my attitude towards things.
Yep. It should definitely be much easier. And that sounds crazy, because when you're in it, it's like you're going through the trenches. We feel like it's a war out here. Like, there's all these women, especially I'm in New York City. So it's a lot of options as far as, like, the ratio of men to women. And it is like a battlefield out here, because they know, like, if you're not down, I'd go on an app and meet 10 women tonight. No problem. Like, they know it's easy. So I think that knowing that kind of adds a little bit of pressure. And then, depending on how old you are, what you want for your life, that's, you know, a little bit more pressure to, like, if I want to have children, I better get it together. Like, you know, like, but it's not always, it just don't work out the way that you try to plan it. Like, you have to let life go and just, like, live and be excited for the moment and stop trying to, like, push forward. Like, I can't rush to, like, even now in my relationship, I can't say I'm excited for it, but I had to learn how to just be in that moment and say, like, I'm enjoying where we are and how it is growing, as opposed to saying, like, all right, what's next? How can we plan the next thing? How can we get to the next step? How can I get you to the next moment? How can I get you to do this and that? And, like, that's all you think about. You just want to think about how to make the future different. And you're like, just enjoy right now. Like, if it's good, let it be good and enjoy it, and it'll grow. If it's going to, it'll grow regardless. Just chill.
All right, now we have someone that's just joined the conversation. Madeline, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Crazy as always.
Yeah, your camera's not on, so.
Oh, that's because my hair looks kind of. That's because I ain't cute today.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's because I ain't cute right now.
I had to get my bun together too. My hair was looking crazy. It's hot today.
So I want to introduce you properly to the audience. So can you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
I don't even know where I start. Like, I guess I started at the beginning. Once upon a time, I was a child.
Uh-oh. I think we might have.
An artist and an actor. I dropped out of medical school to do this, and then I became a stunt woman.
So you dropped out of medical school to become a stunt woman and actress.
Yep.
How did that go with your family?
Well, both my parents are actually artists, and they never wanted me to be an artist.
Oh, wow.
Oh. They were, you know, my mother ran business. My mother was, she made dresses for movies, things like that. And my mother never wanted me to be an artist at all. Like, not whatsoever. She explained to me, you know, my grandmother also told me, you know what happens to artists? You know what happens to actresses? When they get to LA, they suck dick on the corner. That's what they do. That's what you end up doing. You must become a doctor because, you know, it's the immigrant first generation thing. You gotta step out of here, and you gotta not only be better than the next white person, you gotta be better than the next black person. You gotta be better than everybody else, or else, you know, you're not living the American dream.
I feel you.
I live in LA, and there's a lot of people on the corner doing that. So
there is, but at the same time,
that's real.
I had the same thing when I graduated from high school. I went straight into medical school, and I had a good grade, but I wasn't happy. I'm an artist too. I do graphics. I'm a digital artist, and I just didn't want it. And my father still be like, "Listen, you should have did this." I'm like, Dad, I was telling Kinte earlier, it's like, I own a house. I'm good. I think I'm good. I think I've done well. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm straight. I think I'm doing okay. But he's still in his mind, like, you should have just went to medical school and finished. And I'm like, oh, Dad. But he's quite a few generations older, like, you know, older than me. Like, he's a little bit older than I am. So he don't get it yet. But I had to do what was right, you know? So I feel you.
No, I feel you. I was arm deep in a cadaver, right? And like the fact that I was in medical school and I was like 17, and it was just one of those things, I was arm deep in a body, and I was just like, I don't want to do this shit no more. This doesn't make me happy. Because for me, I was an award-winning actress before I was 14, before I graduated and was told, well, you got to go to medical school because as a black woman, and it's like, nah, I decided I was going to be a free black woman. And it's just so now that my mom has accepted me, because now she can see me in magazines, she can see me on TV, she can see me in Vibe magazine, and she's still kind of iffy about it, but now she's finally been like, oh, yeah, I'm proud of you, even though it took a while.
Well, we're all proud of you.
Yeah. Excuse me.
So we were talking about dating, and you know, you brought up Nicole brought up an interesting point. You were talking about not speed dating. What do you call it? When you're dating a whole lot of different people.
I said date for sport until you get comfortable with speaking to men in a specific way, in the way that you should.
And you know, it's funny. I used to do that quite a bit, and I find at this point now, I like to focus on like one person and just tunnel vision that way, because I feel like sometimes when you date a lot, you know, it's like, you know, it's Brenda on Monday, Susie on Tuesday, Jennifer.
Oh no,
You know, like
I ain't talking about that now.
yeah, like then it's like it becomes
That's too much.
then it becomes like, who are you? Like, you know what I'm saying? So
Been there.
yeah, it's just kind of strange, but
That's what happened. You know what? That's a cautionary tale. Let me clarify what I mean by dating for sport, because that is a very good point. Because one time I signed up for a dating app and I was just giving out my number all over the place, like, oh yeah, sure, here, you know, because I'm like, I'm not interested in actually like pursuing a relationship. I'm just going to talk to these guys and see, like, get my feet wet again. That's what I did right after the 2-year break that I took. Like, I'm just see. And next thing you know, and these guys were serious. I had never had that. I was like, all of a sudden, everybody wants to be married. Like, what's going on? When I was trying to have a relationship, all of a sudden, everybody's like trying to marry me now. And I'm like trying to text David and Alex and Mark and Robert and all these people. And I was just like, how am I supposed to keep up with this? What have I done? I didn't expect this. So when I say like dating, or I make that clear to the people and just say, hey, I'm just getting out there. I just want to go out on a couple dates. I'm not looking for anything serious right now yet. I just want to see who's out there. If I meet somebody, I will, you know, I'll stop. But I'm just interested in just having a little fun for the moment. Careful with the fun thing, because they might get the wrong idea. But if you say the word fun to a guy, you might be like,
oh, that translates stuff.
Kind of fun.
Right.
But be clear. Don't go into it like I did, thinking like, oh, these guys aren't going to be serious. Let me just give my number to everybody. Don't do that, because you're going to be like, I didn't save their numbers either. I had to scroll up through conversations to try. Oh, it's a mess. Be careful.
And I'm a savage. I don't care. I've been treating men like they treat women since I got here. And they love it. And they love it. Whenever I try to be the good girlfriend, that shit don't work. They love it when I'm like, oh, but you know what? Don't just pop over my house, baby boo. You might get your feelings hurt. They love it. And I think when you don't care as much and you don't cater, they need to know why. Why ain't she all over me like the other dudes? Why ain't she all over me like the other girls are? I don't know why. It drives them crazy. That's my secret. That's the secret.
I think that's like what Tachi was saying earlier about trying too hard. You know?
Yeah.
Tachi was saying earlier, like sometimes women, we just like kind of trained to like try too hard to like, you know, make the dude like us. And I feel like Nicole hit on it too. When she was, I think, dating for sport, they know, look, dude, you're an option.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so if they want to be more than just the option, then they have to step their game up. So I get that.
Yeah.
100%. Oh, yeah. And it raises the bar on the type of guys that I dated. You know what I mean? Like, it was like scrubs, and then when I didn't care anymore, it was doctors and lawyers and mathematical physicists and all kinds of dudes, because they just couldn't understand why I didn't fall over them, because they were a model or a doctor, or a doctor model was my last boyfriend, and they couldn't get it.
I don't care about none of that, okay? Because those are like the worst kind, because they know it's a million after them. And the more they know they can get a bunch of women, the less likely they respect one. They just, oh, whatever. I'm a doctor. I can get anyone, anywhere, anytime. Like, I don't care. So I just like, I'd rather have a nice, calm, low-key kind of guy. I did the flash. I dated. I worked in the entertainment. I've dated famous people, not famous people, doctor, lawyer. I'd rather just like a nice, chill person who's not out here trying to be social media popping and crazy and all that. Like, I don't want all that. I'm done. I'm good. Pass. And they come around thinking like I'm hot stuff, so you should want me. And I'm laughing, like, just even saying it, I have to laugh, because I'm just like, okay, and what does that mean to me? You got how many followers? And
that kills me. That kills me when people like do that. The whole thing is like, I got all these followers and all of this stuff. I'm like, dude, shut up.
I can't stand that. It's like, well, then you can go and date an Instagram model, because that's not me. If the follower thing is your thing, date somebody from Instagram.
Since you mentioned Instagram in that way, it made me think about too, because I talked about this with a couple of my friends the other day about how who you let's say fawn over on Instagram, like who you double tap on the most, is not necessarily who you want in your life. I feel like a lot of women think because a guy is following all these Instagram models that that's who he's trying to marry, and I don't have a chance, so I'm not even gonna try. That's not true. Because a lot of the dudes that I know that follow Big Booty Maria and all these other women are with some very average looking, normal, everyday women. They have children with them, they marry them, but they just like who you like, just like us. I might double tap on a guy who is ripped with baby oil all over him, but I don't want that. That's ridiculous. I'm not marrying that. I'm sorry. It's just nice eye candy. I think that's another thing. Like people just think like, cause that's who he's following and that's who he's tapping on, and maybe he might put a heart eye or whatever on his day. It doesn't mean that that's who he's trying to marry. Like, he know that he don't want his woman on Instagram with her booty out, her booty cheeks out. He just, that's what he want to look at. So what?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I don't even follow chicks like that. I mean, I never understood that. I mean, you know, obviously I like scantily clad women, but I'm not.
Woo!
Why follow a bunch of women just to look at the cookie? It's kind of creepy to me. But
because those kind of guys usually don't use Instagram regularly, like the way you and I will probably use it. I use it. I only mostly follow like makeup artists and hairstylists and people who are for my trade. Probably you would do the same, like people who you care about the content. And they're usually the people who just follow like a bunch of women like that are not really on it to like in the same way. They're not branding or anything. They probably just passing the time. When they get bored, they go down and look at the butts and the eyes and whatever they're into. Like that's just it. I don't see like in the creep way. There are some creeps though. Let's not get.
I want the butt in front of me. But the young.
I mean,
I was gonna say. Oh, sorry.
No worries. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Say your name again for me.
Madeline.
Oh, my name is Madeline Carita. Oh, we can just go with Maddie.
Go ahead,
I won't give you the whole name. Okay, so for me, I'm on the opposite end. I am an Instagram model. And the thing is, we keep thinking it from their perspective, but every dude that sends me a DM or a present or something doesn't mean that I'm going to holler back. It doesn't mean I'm even halfway interested. It doesn't mean that even, it's how they pass the time. And for me, it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
I do follow Madeline, by the way.
and there are shots of my butt on there. I run free the nipple, like on women's things like that. And for me, it's like nudity and art and all that become one thing. But as an Instagram model, those guys, there's guys who on there like there's a few I like to call up, but I don't. There's a
careful with that. They be catfishing.
Oh, I know. But I also like to clean out bank accounts when they start catfishing. Oh, really, baby? You know what? Meet up. Send me a ticket. It's not.
Wow.
No.
I'm curious about the difference between who we like to look at and find attractive and who we say we're willing to be in a relationship with and actually marry. Why is that why do you think that's a big difference between wanting to see the big booty girl but wanting to marry someone who looks completely different? What is that?
I think it's that animalistic part of us. It's just sexual. It's primal. It's just like, we're human and we have urges and needs. And sometimes visually you see something that pleases just that part. It's nothing else, just that part. Just like you can meet a man who, like, let's say, how you do your own paper. You write your list of all the things you like in a man. You can meet a guy tomorrow and he can have all those things and you can still not be into him. There's no chemistry for some reason, but they have all the things you want, but there's no chemistry. And I'm really into energies and exchanging of energies and stuff like that. So that's what I'm looking at, the energy. Like I said, with the boyfriend that I'm with now, when I went out with him, I didn't have any expectation. I was just like, whatever, let me give this man a chance, because he's been like text me for a year. No shade, boo. Like, but he messed up for a year, and I was just like not ready. That's all. I just wasn't ready. It didn't have nothing to do with him. I just wasn't ready. And so when I didn't expect that, and I was just like, oh, the energy is so good. Like, I gotta hold on to that. And then I got to know him more, and I liked what I saw. But it wasn't about just like, oh, he's cute and I'm gonna go out with him. When I was doing that, when I was just saying he's cute, let me try and see if I can get to know him, that's when I feel like I failed the most, when it came to dating, when I was just like, oh, he fine, let me hit that up. I gotta, because you want to, it's a maturity thing. You gotta grow past that point where you just like, oh, he fine, I want that on my arm. It's the same thing they think about us, like, oh yeah, I want to walk in and have my boys be like, damn, you know, like it's just a primal instinct. I think that we just have. It's a sexual part of us that just goes like, ooh, yes, please.
I think there's also we're making assumptions sometimes that somebody who does look like that cannot also be someone who stimulates you intellectually and the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. I just think that's what we've been, again, the whole society thing. That's what society has reared us to think, that there are those people that look like librarians are the serious ones, and those are the people you want to marry, and the other people are not. No, those are the people you have fun with. And I don't think that they're always necessarily separate. That's what we've just been fed, basically.
But also, if you see a man if you think that way, sometimes it's because it's like scary to think like this man could be absolutely amazingly attractive and have substance, and we have good energy. And when you do have that, you like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? What's the problem? Tell me the flaw. Let's get it out. Let's just find out now. Like, that's where you go with it, because you just like, come on now, you can't be perfect. There's no way.
Oh, girl, I got a story for you just based on what you said, girl. I got a story. Okay, I see this fine ass 5'4", speaks Japanese, has 2 businesses, ex-MMA fighter. We go out. He opens the door for me, calls me queen, buys me, you know, whatever. He's better dressed than me. I find out a few later, I get a call from the police, and they said, well, he murdered some chick. So it usually, sometimes it is too good to be true. When you're like, oh my God, everything about you, perfect.
Let me tell you, when I was back in the day, I met this guy, same thing. He was everything. Like, he's still trying to talk to me now, but he's in jail. He's been in jail since I was about 18 years old. We were together when he got locked up because he murdered somebody down in Alabama. And he was selling drugs up here. This is my bad boy phase. I'm a good girl, so you know the good girl, bad guy thing was a thing for me for a long time. And so I was dating this guy, and all of a sudden, like, I hadn't seen it for 2 days, which is weird because he would always walk me home and, like, you know, make sure I was good. He would go to this man would go and sit in the nail salon with me, just sitting there and just like keep me company at the nail salon. You know, dudes don't want to be in there. He would go there with me. He took me to meet his grandmother, who is the love of his life. And like, just completely all of the things that you would want. And then he disappears. I'm like, what's going on? And then like, they're like, check out America's Most Wanted. And I was like, why would you tell me that way? Like, that's how I was told, go check out America's Most Wanted. And I literally went on and I see this and I'm like, is this for real? Are you kidding me? Best boyfriend ever. And then he turned out to be some. Yep. Which doesn't say that he's a bad guy as far as like certain things. Because the thing, I have this understanding about these type of men where it's like it's just like if you think about the mob, like these men were out in the street doing all this crazy stuff. When they came home, family was family, and they didn't bring that back home. So like I have that understanding and knowledge, and I've had that street smart to know that. So that's how I was looking at it. But when he got locked up and he got like 25, I was like, okay, sorry.
But see, that's how we rationalize ourselves right into bad relationships sometimes, where you find out that, because a lot of us are not savvy enough to be like, okay, you know what? No, you're in jail for something serious. I don't think so. But we'll be like, well, he really did treat me nice, and this and that, and da. And no, I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying in general.
But yes,
we rationalize ourselves right into bad relationships because we try to see the damn good in everybody, and not damn everybody has damn good in them. Even if I'm just saying, and you have to love yourself enough to get away from that type of thing. And some of us haven't been socialized to do that. You know, like you all could be like, ooh, bye, you know, but there are some other women who have not been socialized enough that any type of love or any type of attention is good attention. And regardless of how many years he has behind bars, what he did before, how many kilos he sells, we will find a way to find the good in them because we don't have anything else. And that's what we have to, come bad.
That's the fear. That's the fear. If you're in a relationship and everything is going good and something like that happens, that the fear of starting all over is what will stifle you and stick you right where you at, because you're scared to stop and start all over and meet a new man and try to get these qualities that you like. Because it's already hard enough to find it. So people will stay in relationships because they don't want to pay a rent. They're, you know, like in the city they live in, it's expensive, so they don't want to move out. People stay together because they're too scared to move on and try again, or it's just comfortable. Like, I know your demons, let me just stick with what I know. Like, that type of stuff is, those fears literally will keep you in where you standing. But you can't live like that. You gotta move on. Like, that's not gonna work. Because
I think one of the things that happened during the time where I was dating, like teenage and in my 20s, there was this strong emphasis on being a ride or die chick. Like, you're gonna be down for your man no matter what. There were songs about it. There was movies about it. Mm-hmm. It was just it was very propaganda-ish to promote this woman who put up with whatever you did, right? And we sang to it and we danced to it and all of these things. And even before that, in my mother's generation, there was this strong emphasis on standing by your man.
We still do it.
No matter what. He might have hit you, he might have did something to your kids, he might have did whatever, but you're gonna stand by your man. And I think there's something, it just reoccurs in our culture throughout the years, this emphasis, especially in African American communities, it's probably in other communities as well, but because I don't frequent those communities, I'm not all the way fluent on how they move and everything. But there's this emphasis in standing by your man, and it just shows up and manifests in different ways in each generation of how families should be. Even if we look at the Moynihan Report and how Black women or single Black women are positioned as the downfall of everything that's wrong with Black families. Being a single Black woman is the problem, this emphasis on standing by your man. So I think when it comes to these type of relationships, I think it's easy to happen when you're socializing and your culture says, stand by your man, be a ride or die chick. There's stigma. If you have a child and you and that person are no longer together, there's stigma placed on you. So it's a higher chance that that woman is probably going to stick with that man throughout a lot more stuff. I think that some of the things that we have to realize, the beauty and the ugly of aspects of culture, that I don't necessarily think it's necessarily ugly to say stand by your man, but I think that we should emphasize it to the same degree, stand by your woman, right? So I don't hear as many men calling out their homeboys. Like if guys are hanging out and one of the guys are being unfaithful, I've never heard of a guy calling the guy out, telling him, no, man, that's wrong, or don't do that. I've never heard of a man being a ride or die man. I've never heard of somebody saying, stand by your woman. So I think that we just put emphasis in one area and we don't put emphasis in the other area. And so we tend to have this imbalance where Black women do put up with more. Like I think Tasha was mentioning it earlier.
I don't know if there's something true about Black women putting up with more than let's say white women. Because
I don't know about white women. So I wasn't making a comparison there, but I am making a comparison between Black men and Black women.
We could talk about Hillary Clinton and call her a ride or die chick because she put up with a lot of stuff with her man.
Right. So again, I don't know.
But she doesn't love Bill Clinton.
He was sitting there banging interns in the White House.
Yeah, that's just who we knew about. I'm pretty sure cool ass Bill was out here doing him all over the place. You know what I'm saying? And she's there stuck with him. But a lot of cultures, and I know you weren't like trying to call out just because but a lot of cultures, Asian, The Asian culture is insane. Like, if you only knew, like in China, they have a market where your parents literally put your information out so some man can come and like marry you. Because if you're not married, you ain't nothing. You don't matter if you're a doctor, you got all this money. You're not anything until you're married. That's crazy. Like, I can't imagine if we had to deal with that. Like,
And don't forget the age limit, girl. There's an age limit.
especially if you're not married by a certain age. Oh, forget it.
Yep, if you're not married by 29, you done using old hag. I don't understand that.
Yep. Then nobody wants you.
And that's also for if you're not married by 29, if you're a woman. Because if you're not married by 29 and you're a dude, you're a bachelor. You're
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
So I think a lot of what we're saying and what we're talking about is patriarchy and how patriarchy is showing up in relationships and families.
See, this is
also though you gotta think about the history of relationships and stuff like that. And you know, there was a time where it was universally accepted that, you know, you got your daughter married off at a certain age. And, you know, like a lot of times it'd be like as young as 14 or something like that. And then a lot of times it was to an older guy that could take care of them. And there's still a lot of, you know, that may not be the same here, most of all, maybe still in Alabama, Mississippi. But, you know, other than
I mean, but no, it's happening all over the place because we still have people from other countries bringing their stuff in here. I actually work as part of the Homeland Security Task Force to end child marriage and also sex trafficking. It's going on all around us. We're just not seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
It's an invisible crime happening to us.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, there's two things there. Well, a couple of things there. I think that number one, when you're talking about age from back then and whatever, there's, besides the disrespect of women, there was also the life expectancy thing. So you didn't know that anybody was going to live past to the age of 20. So there was also that thing as well. But I think the biggest thing is that we have to look more to our, and this is kind of getting off, but not really, look more to women's organizations. I'm in a lot of women's organizations, and it amazes me that our focus is not often on this empowerment of women in this sense. Like, you'll see people that are maybe members going through certain things in their relationships. I'm like, how are we in an organization of almost 250,000 women, and this is the problem? So I think that our focus needs to be a little bit more towards empowering women, and not just women, but young girls too, because they grow up watching this nonsense and they internalize it as okay. So that's another thing that we need to do. This is cyclical. It's not just about the individual, because individuals live within society. So when we just look at the individual, we're looking at it on a very micro level when it's a macro problem, and that's what we need to look at.
And also too, but it's not just even just empowering women. It's, we got to do better with our boys, because because you know, we all come from homes where there was a woman, right? Not to say, you know, not everybody, but shoot, a large percentage. And I think we have to do a better job of teaching the boys, you know, how to be men and how to take care of, at some point you're going to have a wife, right? So, you know, I was fortunate, right? Even though I'm not married, but I came from a really strong, you know, family structure where, you know, where my father, my uncles, my, you know, older cousins and all of that stuff. So that's all I saw coming up. You know, I didn't see any negative men. You know, these were strong Black men that had a hand in raising me, and they taught me to be respect, you know, to have respect and all of that stuff for women. And there are a lot of boys that don't come from that. They don't have that. They don't have strong male influences telling them that stuff. Unfortunately, if they do have a male influence, sometimes they're telling them negativity on how,
like Hotaps. Like them hoteps, them
Oh,
ashy ass hoteps.
gee, please don't talk about the hoteps because I can't.
Them ashy ass hoteps.
Well,
You know what? My father is one. My father is one, and it's one of those things where it's like me being me. It kind of hurts me inside.
But you know, I wanted to go back to what was being said about, like it's for me. I'm one of those people that I really do think that the choices that we make matter. So you do have to break this cycle of thought. Like, I have to be a ride or die chick no matter what, and I have to tolerate. Because if you choose that, if you say that's how I'm gonna be, and then you get with this man and you think I'm a ride or die for him no matter what, meaning I'm a ride or die even if he don't ride or die for me, then you can't really expect to have a relationship that's going to be successful. You can't have a kid with this man and say, I'm going to be a ride or die, and now he's gone. Like, you have to, the choice from the original point has to be right. You have to make that right choice from the beginning. That's where the education and the empowerment comes in at, is understanding what you deserve, what you want, what you need, and then making the choice, because the choice is being made way before you even know what you really want or really what's right for you. So like, if I'm making the choice, because if I had gotten married before, I would be divorced, I'm sure, 100%, because obviously we didn't make it to the marriage. But if I had married him, if I had done the ride or die thing, we'd be divorced right now, and I'd be a divorced woman with probably a kid, and that would change how I'm viewed moving forward, which is, again, something that I shouldn't have to worry about, because it shouldn't be a stigma. I shouldn't be damaged goods or whatever. Like, that's not okay. So I think the empowerment plays a part, the decision making plays a part. All of that has to come together in order, before we can just say like, oh, I'm gonna place blame on this or that or these people or this thing. And you have to, your choice, you chose to be with this person before you chose to have a child with someone. Now, I'm not talking about people who were bamboozled and how Stella got a groove act and all those kind of situations, because that's different. You know, those are exceptions to the rule. But if you made a conscious decision to be with somebody and you weren't sure, 100% sure about what you wanted and that they were going to stick it out with you, no matter what, then you shouldn't have no kid with them. You shouldn't have laid with them. You shouldn't have opened your legs. You should have made sure that you were being safe, because babies are not the only thing that you can catch. You know what I'm saying? Like, can have. So you got to be careful. You can't just be out here like laying out for people. That's just not how it works.
And the truth is, you can get stuff even with condoms too as well. So you got to definitely make sure that when you making those decisions that you know, it's a lot of people think if they use a condom, they're safe. And that's not necessarily true. But one thing I want to say is I think we need to redefine what is a ride or die chick, because I like those elements of a ride or die chick. You know, I think you should be a ride or die for a man should be a ride or die for his family, his wife. A woman should be a ride or die for her husband and her children. But you know, if someone is no good for you and they treat you with no dignity or respect, and they don't add to your life, they just subtract, then you should not be a ride or die person for them. But if that person shows you respect, you know, is there for you, you can count on that person, and you know they're good people, then yeah, you should be a ride or die for that person.
I mean, okay, but at the same time, right, we're kind of saying, oh, we should make these decisions and all that, but the part of our culture was something that didn't come from us. We, like Reagan's own administrators and the president of the in the late 70s, they admitted to having a systematic plan in breaking up the Black family. Oh, yeah. They had a systematic plan in breaking up the Black family community. So, I mean, this was Reagan's own administrator admitted it on late night TV the other night. They systematically did this to us. They systematically made that Rick Ross, Freeway Rick Ross became a hero even though he poisoned our communities. They purposely did this to us. They purposely put a plan in action to destroy our communities from a psychological base, a mental base, emotional. Like, we can't all be it's not all us that came out with this and was just like, you know what? Black people, black women ain't shit, black men ain't shit. We was given that. That was something that we were programmed.
I think it's way before that. I think slavery did that. I think that's
True.
an after effect of how we were, like, you know, like you said earlier, pitted against one another. Light skin in the house, dark skin in the field. You against me. I'm prettier because I'm lighter. You know, like that's been there. Like that's something that's been.
But at the same
instilled
time, though, we came up. Like you forget the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the Black Panther movement changed our communities. After the 70s, when we watched Baby Huey and them get killed and slaughtered, our communities started to change. And that struck fear in them. We forget the whole time period where we weren't slaves. We started coming up. We invented things. We wrote books.
But we have had
slaves.
We had to have several movements, and I'm not down in our people. That's the furthest thing that I just think the pain and the damage is way deeper because we have had several movements. But the movement can do nothing if everybody isn't getting in on it. Like we can't get every single person to follow suit in this situation. So that's why it's not taking the effect, because at this point we know for a fact that we can do better, but there are still being choices made not to do better. The no snitching thing. I live in Brooklyn. I have lost so many friends that I grew up with. Sometimes friends of mine committed crimes against other friends of mine. That's hard because I don't know what to feel. I'm friends with both of you, and now you did this. Y'all had a fight, and you killed this person. So now I'm like, okay, I'm upset at you, but we are friends. You're friends. You guys got into it. You guys had your reasons, and it was gonna either be you or you either way. So I'm upset. I'm hurt. I'm sad. I'm confused. But nobody gonna say who did it. Everybody knows who did it. Nobody gonna say who did it. No snitching. But I saw somebody post on social media the other day that said we need to police our own communities, and I'm like, that's what we're doing now, but that's not working. Policing our own community meaning the street handles the street. Like if something goes on, they want to handle it. That is, in my mind, policing your own community. That's what's being done, but it's not being done right.
I definitely agree about that because I can understand why somebody don't want to talk to the police because they don't necessarily protect you when you do. And so are protected as well. And also there's a big mistrust between the Black community as well as and the police department. Yeah. And also once you snitch, you got to then live in the neighborhood and you didn't snitch on somebody. So, you know, how you going to do that?
You shouldn't be there though. You shouldn't be afraid of your own community and the people who are paid to police the community. You're afraid double. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hearing all this hate for the police, but it's like it's you double afraid. Like you scared of where you live and you're scared of people protecting where you live.
I'll be honest with you, I don't call the police unless if I'm calling the police, it's important as hell. Because
right.
How many Black folks don't call the police and they end up dead?
I'm not saying that I'm exempt either. Let me just make that clear because I don't snitch either. Yeah, but I'm including myself in
I will snitch if I need to. It depends on what we're talking about.
But then it's your family now. If it's your family, then you're ready to tell. When it touches you personally, that's when we begin to say, you look at it from a different point of view. Until you're somebody you like love, you don't care. You're like, well, I mean, out of sight, out of mind.
Well, and see, that's the problem, that we've come away from the collective nature and the collective spirit of who we are and have become individualistic. If it's happening to somebody in our community, we should feel like it's family. We should want to, but we understand all the reasons why it doesn't happen, but we should. And we've detached ourselves from our neighbors and from other people that are within our community. Like we've been actually socialized to do. Individualism is a very Western thing, but that's not traditionally who we are. We are traditionally collective, but now in this community, in this society that we're in, we've become individualistic. And then I also wanted to go back to the thing you were talking about, Nicole, with movements, where we've had several movements, and Bell Hooks has a book called Salvation, Black People in Love. This was from the early 2000s. She wrote this about 2003, I think. And she talks about the fact that one of the reasons that many of our movements have not been as successful as they could be is because they lack a love ethic. And the thing is, many of our movements are too busy trying to cultivate the self-esteem of Black people as opposed to cultivating love. And so this is what she posits. And I kind of think there's something to that, because if you look, a lot of it is about self-esteem is critically important. But do we actually love each other? And I think we have this concept of love of, well, I put a roof over your head, therefore that means I love you. That's not necessarily the same thing. So we have a different concept, I think, sometimes of love. And she's positing that this is why some of our movements have not been as successful, because they're devoid of a love ethic.
And I'll say one thing, and then we're gonna wrap. One of the big reasons why our movements have failed is because we've been infiltrated, and a lot of that we find out years later that that was a program as well, like COINTELPRO and the Black Desk as well. A lot of people know. And are you about to say the C word? What's the C word? Oh no. Well, yeah, they would be that. There's a great. I'll leave you with this. There's a great documentary called Spies of, I believe it's Mississippi, and it came on. I think it was PBS or something a couple of years ago, and it was about the Black people who worked against the civil rights movement, and it's real deep. It's crazy. These people who just straight out sold their community. So, but you guys check that out. All right, I want to take a moment to thank everybody. You ladies have been awesome. You guys are wonderful. And I'm going to start off with you, Madeline. How can people reach you on social media? And what's the next project that we should be on the lookout for with you?
You can reach me, Madeline Carita Fleming, or Queen Kong Kai, which is the other moniker. My next project, I just recently bought the rights to a Stephen King film, and we're gonna adapt it, and I'm gonna put Black people in it. We're gonna kind of go into that foray of sci-fi and horror and all that. I've stacked my dough and decided, like, I'm gonna make a movie for the things I want to see. I don't see women of color in those films. The things I grew up in, I didn't see other Black people in them. So I decided I'm gonna buy them myself, and I'm gonna make my own Black superheroes. I'm gonna make my own Black saviors and monsters and all that good stuff. So in a couple months, you can look for my film my Stephen King film.
All right, congratulations. And also, there was a thing I saw you on where you were doing like a bunch of crazy stuff. What was that?
Which one? Do you mean Extreme?
It was like
Extreme Water Parks.
Show, yeah.
Oh yeah. Extreme. What is it? Extreme Water Parks on the Travel Channel. Mm-hmm. So basically, they took us around the world, and we just did really scary things in water parks. Jumped out of a helicopter jumped out of a helicopter about 125 feet into a pool of water, and then I did one of the world's tallest water slides, but it's completely clear. So it just looks like you're like, and it's over a city. So.
Oh my.
Wow.
I am not a very fearful person.
I'm not.
I would not do that shit.
You gotta live a little. You might as well. You only live once or twice.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, I'm good on that. I'm good on that.
I'm on the ground with you, Kente.
But thank you so much for joining us again, Madeline. And
thank you. You guys were amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Nicole, how can we get you on social media? And I know you used to do stuff online, video stuff, but you kind of moved away from it. So, but
I'm definitely still interested. I'm gonna do a podcast at some point. I'm very interested. I love having, me, I love having conversations. Like, I can talk about anything, and I'm open to it. So I'm definitely gonna work on my podcast. But before that, I'm relaunching my website, my blog, and all of my social media is uniform. And it's funny because my name that I have on everything is from Blab, like the Blab people, like everybody from Blab gave me that name, Lada Nick. It's LUHDANICK, and that's on everything: Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All of that is the same, and that's how you can find me and keep up with everything that I'm doing. But I'm definitely working on some fun things and eventually a book.
Okay, that's what's up. All right. Thank you so much for coming on, and of course, we want to have you back on as well.
I appreciate it.
And Madeline as well. And Tachi, now my dance teacher. What do we got coming up? When do the classes start as well?
Oh Lord, what do I have not coming up? That's the question. So you can reach me everywhere on social media at Tachiada, TACHIADA, or my whole name, Chatachi A. Egwu. So you can reach me that way. But I have a lot of things coming up, including some producing and including trying to put together a web series. And we have 2 documentaries we're trying to finish. So that should keep me busy for a minute.
I'm telling you, you are a busy lady. So thank you for coming. And last but definitely not least, this one, talk about busy over here. Rasheem, how can we get you on social media? Tell us about your show as well.
You can catch me S Rasheem on Twitter and Instagram. Our narrative airs every Saturday night at 9:30. This upcoming show is Mothering at the Intersections, Part 2, Mothering Daughters. Yeah, and you could catch me if you go to YouTube and you just type in S.Rasheem, spelled RASHEEM. And if you go to Twitter, you could just put in S Rasheem. And if you go to Instagram, you can put S.Rasheem everywhere.
All right. And you can follow me at Kente F on Twitter, as well as you can go to our website, indyradio.org. That's INDYradio.org. Next week, we'll be back once again. We will be there. This one will be podcast only next week, but we'll be talking about hooking up in a virtual platform. So that'll be interesting.
Oh,
Wow.
Are you going to have Stephanie on?
man, oh man.
Who?
Stephanie Spam.
I don't know. Has she done that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You mean online dating? Is that what you're saying?
No. This is in a virtual world. This is.
Oh no. Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Actually, you know who has is Victoria.
Oh, okay.
Victoria. So, but I don't. She's not scheduled to be on. But yeah, that'll be next week. So, but you know, you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll catch you next time right here.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.